Syndication. Syndication is the sale of programs on a station-by-station, market-by-market basis. Syndicated programs are those not produced by the local station or sent to the station via one of the networks. So this is going to be your shows that are not on every ABC station or every NBC station. You can find, for example, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. In the Raleigh market, you will find them on the ABC affiliate. But if you live closer to Greensboro and you want to watch Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, you will find it in Greensboro on the CBS affiliate. Those shows are contracted to a particular station in a particular market that it's not necessarily associated with whatever network that station is affiliated with. Syndicated programs are sold to the station on a market-exclusive basis for a certain length of time and for a certain number of broadcasts per episode. This is another difference from network television. Networks provide programming to its affiliates, and networks actually pay the affiliates a network compensation fee for carrying the network programming. But in syndication has an agreement with a particular station that they're going to air programs, and in exchange, the station is buying the rights to air that program. Once the syndicator has created a group of stations to carry its program, the syndicator sells advertising time in the program to national advertisers. So, within syndicated programming, you have the syndicator itself selling ad time as well as local affiliates. Advertisers use syndication in combination with network buys to maximize their use of broadcast television against the declining shares of the networks. So it's a way for national and regional advertisers to be able to get its message out and expand the reach from more than just what primetime programming can provide. Both the increase in the number of cable outlets and the opening of lucrative time periods in broadcast television have contributed to the boom in syndication. One of the big ones was the opening of what's called the prime access period. Once upon a time, the 7 o'clock hour in the evenings was considered part of network prime time. Then legislation came out that gave that time back to local affiliates, and that is now what is called prime access. It is in control of the local television stations, and they can put whatever programming they want on there. Many of those television stations choose to put syndicated programming on there, and some of the more popular syndicated programs you'll find airing in that 7 p.m. hour. Okay, let's take a look now at how syndication works. Programs which originally ran as network series are called off-network syndication. So this is going to be your programming like your Seinfelds, like your various CSIs that are on the air, many of your Law and Orders, even though Law and Order is still a network show that you can still catch on NBC, you see a lot of reruns in syndication on various broadcast and cable television stations. So those are the off-network shows. Syndication also includes original programs like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Entertainment Tonight, all of those that are producing new content but have never aired in a network sort of format. Syndication is done on a barter basis. The local TV station agrees to run commercials sold by the syndicator within the program in exchange for the program itself. So many times what will happen is, say if you have a 30-minute program that's in syndication, the program may have 22 minutes of content and then 8 minutes of commercial time. The syndicator will keep 1 to 2 minutes of the advertising time for itself to be able to sell programming, and then the local broadcast station will get the remainder of that time available. And those numbers aren't hard and fast. It's going to be different from program to program and agreement to agreement. But basically, the syndicator gets a share of the amount of commercial avail time, and the local broadcast station gets the remaining share of whatever's left within that program time slot. The more popular the program, the more likely the station will have to pay cash for each episode, as well as provide the syndicator with commercial positions. This is an arrangement that's called cash plus, or cash plus barter. So in those cases, a station would pay X number of dollars for each episode that it gets the rights to, in addition to allowing the syndicator to have advertising time within the show. The local station generally gets commercial time. We've talked about that. The syndicator makes audience delivery guarantees to their advertisers. If a program delivers less than the projected rating, the syndicator adjusts the rate with cash back to the advertiser. And that's an important distinction as well. Syndicators don't have the luxury of being able to find another program to air an advertiser's content into. So they are stuck with having to pay an advertiser back if the numbers do not measure up to what the syndicator promised to an advertiser. Cable syndication. Cable can pay more for popular, expensive syndicated shows because of its national audience reach. So that is one reason that cable has become a kind of a attractive ground for syndicators to be able to release its content to them, because they can release their show to one national network for a national audience, as opposed to the limited reach of local broadcast stations in market to market to market. There's going to be pros and cons to that. As far as the local broadcast stations, it's still attractive for syndicators, because syndicators can then also sell advertising time to certain regional advertisers, which it might not be able to do as well when it's programming to a national cable television audience. In the textbook, you'll see who the big advertisers for syndicated television are, and it's a list to be able to use as a reference there. Infomercials. Yay, infomercials. Several different formats of infomercials, including the storymercial, a program done as a drama for the purpose of selling a product or service. This does its best to make the infomercial look like a true television program, with a plot line and all of that, but the purpose of the show is to sell a product or service. The programmercial takes an almost documentary approach, but dramatized for the production, not necessarily collected from existing sources, as a documentary would be in its truest form. But there's also the documercial that is produced just like a documentary. So both the programmercial and the documercial have this sort of feel to them of kind of a informational, educational, talking from several sources and showing things just like a normal documentary would. But again, it's trying to sell you a product or service. The brandmercial, designed to deepen the image of a national brand. The talk show, the original infomercial format, it walks a fine line between a typical TV talk show and a commercial. So you've got, basically a couple of talking heads talking about a particular product or service. And then the demonstration, which demonstrates a product. A lot of times, your cooking type shows are going to be a good example of this, or people using a particular type of product in various different situations. That's going to be a demonstration type of infomercial. There are also short form infomercials, elongated commercials that usually run somewhere between 60, 90, 120 seconds. These are called direct response television because they ask the viewer to call a toll-free number or log on to a website in order to place an order for that product. Andrew Miller says this: as more cable channels appear, the need for innovative programming increases. The key is to provide these channels with a program that looks like good network television and also incorporates the proper elements which make the consumer respond and buy the products being offered. So the idea here is that television, the days of television just throwing something on the air expecting people to watch are long, long gone. And those days are getting even further and further away as a huge number of options continue to become available. One way that is suggested to be able to try to capture people's attention is through revenue-enhanced programming. Revenue-enhanced programming is selling commercial time within a program as well as selling products directly to the viewer within the program itself. So there's an innovation there in that you're trying to create entertaining content while also selling products and allowing advertisers to sell products within your show that is selling a product. And depending on who the product is associated with, what the content of that product is, it is something that does capture the attention of many people. A lot of radio talk shows are going with that sort of method where the talk show host is not just a talk show host, but is also an author or does speaking engagements, those kinds of things. So they're going to promote themselves as well as promoting the various sponsors of their show. Selling local television. Book talks about the story of Mel Karmazin, who was the CEO of CBS Television for a long time. He has adapted the idea of how commercial time is sold on radio to selling for television, including things like the demographic niches, target audiences, creative ideas in package selling. And that is something that has helped to be able to keep television afloat, really, because his thoughts help to transform the way that television thinks about itself, how it presents itself to advertisers, how it presents its programming content to viewers, and to be able to create those certain appeals, and again, to be able to keep themselves alive. They're just kind of late in the game in terms of recognizing this, something that radio had to recognize a long time ago when television became more popular than radio for general entertainment purposes. News as a focus. Networks are the most important source of programming in television based on the number of hours scheduled in the typical week. Affiliated stations rely on their networks to fill the important daytime and primetime programming slots. So whenever the networks are providing program content, things that are being shared throughout the country, that's something that the local broadcast station doesn't have to worry as much about in filling those time slots during those periods. It does, however, have to look at the rest of the broadcast day. To cement an image in the local community, local broadcast television relies heavily on news. A strong news image allows the station to maintain overall visibility and to support advertising rates. So if you're flipping through the dial and you're checking out all the different local television stations, any of them that have a news presence is going to strongly identify the station as a whole with the news product in particular and try to create a brand for themselves in that way. and the reputation of the station is basically an extension of the reputation of their news product. A stable, well-liked news team is one of the strongest selling points for local TV salespeople. The longer an anchor stays on the air with positive reaction from local viewers, the more the station's image and advertising rates are enhanced. So if you have a news team that has a good reputation, that is well liked in the community, that is seen as folks that kind of know what they're doing, it's going to help bolster the image of the television station as a whole, and is going to help the bottom line of those that are trying to sell advertising for that station. The key to effective use of the news franchise is understanding the psychographic of the news viewer. Which stories are demographically driven? Which ones are driven psychographically? Again, it's that question of message and audience. Who is the audience that you're trying to reach out to? The same news stories may be covered by all three major networks, but they're going to be covered in different ways in order to appeal to their target demographic. And there may be some stories that are not covered as much or at all compared to other options that may be available. The way that a story is covered is going to be different based on the way that they're trying to appeal to their audience as well. The key to effective use of the news franchise is understanding all those sorts of things. News stories can be targeted to demographics watching news at the various times that the newscasts are offered. A great example of this is WRAL. It seems like WRAL has news product that's out there constantly between its main channel, Channel 5, and then its sister station over on Fox 50. If you were to take a survey of all the different news opportunities that WRAL has out there, even within Channel 5 itself, you're going to see a different flavor of the news at 4 p.m. as opposed to what you see at 5 p.m., as opposed to what you see at 6 p.m., as opposed to what you see at 11 p.m. You're going to see a difference in the way that they present the news in the early morning versus noontime. You're going to see differences in the way that they present the news on Channel 5 versus how they present it on Channel 50. It's all in that strategy of presenting the news content to the particular demographic that is watching on that particular station at that particular time. Who buys local TV? Networks provide compensation to their affiliates. We talked about that earlier. Each local station gets some portion of the compensation pool based on the contractual agreement between the station and the network and how many clearances the local affiliates provides. A range of buyers exist for local television, and we're going to talk about two main ones here. And you're going to see some associations based on earlier chapters that we've talked about. First are the bulk buyers. Bulk buyers demand that the TV station delivers a number of demo points by day part because their needs are driven by cost per point. This is largely going to be your agency buyers. Buys are often made by advertising agencies that buy large blocks of time without a specific client in mind. Now, why would they do that? They would do that because if they see that they have a good rate that they can buy for the particular ratings points that they're looking for, they're going to snatch them up, and then they're going to market that to the particular clients that they have on their client list. Bulk buyers buy based on favorable rates, then spread that opportunity among their clients. So there you go, bulk buyers. The specific buyer, each spot is placed by time slot, day part, and program to achieve demo points against the advertiser's target audience. This is largely going to be your individual businesses and your direct buying opportunities. The focused buyer sees each week as a complete schedule in itself with specific goals. When a spot is missed, they believe that it must be made good with a specific program that either meets or exceeds the established criteria. Again, the specific buyer, the direct buyer, is looking for certain results, is looking for a certain problem they have to be solved by means of the advertising that they are using. They're not necessarily interested in the most bang for the buck in terms of buying the spot in and of itself, but they want to see an increased overall bottom line in their particular business, or to increase their brand awareness, to increase their image in the community, whatever the goal is that that particular specific buyer has, that's what they are looking to buy. And that's going to be part of that major difference between the bulk buyer and the specific buyer.